This video is sponsored by Squarespace. If you need a website or domain, go to squarespace.com/microphonenerds for 10% off your first purchase. I bought this hideous Lumix GH1 from Japan recently, and on paper there is not one single redeeming feature. It's 15 years old. You know, it's knocking on a bit, you know, in camera terms, but I'm a big fan of the GH series. The GH5 is the best camera I've ever had. I love the GH6, I love the GH2, I love the GH7. What's not to love? So I've been on a quest to collect them all, and I thought I would take this camera to Corfu, which is why it sounds like there are a million crickets around me, because there are, for a street photography extravaganza. Let's see how well the camera did. One little quirk getting the Japanese version of this camera is I bought it from Bai, which is like a Japanese eBay intermediary, and the menus were Japanese, enforced Japanese in this model, unfortunately. But I had to hack it, basically. There's a little piece of software called P-Tools, and you can change the language, you can change a lot, actually. It does not reinvent the wheel. We are still hamstrung by older technology, but you can improve it by hacking it a little bit. I'm very happy that the menus are now back in English. One thing that was a bit jaw-dropping about this camera is I like to see how much cameras were when they were first released, when I buy them, just to see how they sort of stood up in terms of where they were in the lineup. The GH1, 15 years ago, was 1,500 actual pounds. This is the flagship of flagships. Technology does move on, obviously, but back in the day, this would have been groundbreaking. So what have we got? We have a Philippi screen. We have a mic input, if you have an adapter. We have absolutely no way to monitor the audio from it. So if you are silent, it'll just ramp up the gain and you'll hear the entire world. We have the cutest older SD cards. It takes SDHC, is that what they're called? Yep, SDHC, the older cards. So just remember, if you have cards now that are a bit pants, don't throw them out. Keep hold of them, because you never know what you're going to buy in 10 years' time. And for the tiny camera series montage, we have the pop-up flash. Amazing. And in terms of ergonomics, there's a heck of a lot that is pretty good, actually. It doesn't feel as old as it is. There's so much in place here that looks like a more modern Lumix camera. They hit the ground running with the GH series, to be honest. You have a front dial, but no back dial. So the way that you navigate your settings is you can press this one in, and then it doubles up as like 2 dials in one. There is no touchscreen because it's ancient, but it's still pretty easy to navigate, and the menus are not a world apart from what you would find today in a more modern Lumix camera. I heard some rumours on the forums that the AF in this was a little bit faster than the later GH models, and I thought that's a bit weird. That can't be a thing. But I've just done, I did an AF test as a joke, and it's actually not terrible. It's really not terrible. So yes, it's contrast-based autofocus. Yes, it's 15 years old. But it actually isn't the worst autofocus I've ever used. Is it not picking me up at all?
It's actually pretty good.
Do you know? Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Fun fact, my favourite thing about this camera, which breaks my actual heart, is the burst mode, which you access just by going on this little dial here, just like a normal Lumix camera. You just go burst mode, single. The burst mode, blazing fast, 3.3 raw files a second, right? 3.3 raw files a second. However, the buffer, 4. So you better make that 1 second count. So of course there is absolutely no IBIS in this, so you do need a stabilized lens if you want to record video. I've just been rocking prime lenses this week. I've been using the 20mm 1.7 and the 25mm 1.4, and these two have enabled me to use the camera one-handed. They've enabled me to be sort of quick and incognito, and I love a good prime lens. It does wonders on an older Micro Four Thirds camera. Now, I'm really proud of the photographs I've got this week. I've got some absolute bangers, if I do say so myself. And the dynamic range of the raw files really impressed me. Just don't go rushing out and spending a ton of money on this camera. As much as it's fun and I've really enjoyed it, there are plenty similar to it. It's not like this is a magic camera or anything. I just find it charming, and I collect GH cameras now, so I wanted one for my own personal collection. For a similar sort of price, you could get a G1, which was just 4 months older than this one, or, you know, there's plenty. Check out my tiny camera series. I've got millions of tiny cameras to choose from. So I'm not necessarily saying that there's anything magic about this camera. It's just that most cameras are better than you think. And you can get an older camera for cheap. This was like £80, I think, even in the nauseating gold colour. And for 80 quid, it's blooming great. You just have to watch the highlights a bit. You've got great dynamic range in the shadows, but the highlights will clip pretty easily. And this image is a perfect example. I actually think this would have been my favourite image of the whole trip had I not clipped the highlights. Older cameras mean older metering systems, unfortunately, so we really do need to keep an eye on this. Exposure compensation is your friend. Roll it down. One of the days we went on this boat trip, and it was a blindingly bright day, but I absolutely love how the colours have turned out on this day. My good friend Josh Cameron provided this wonderful B-roll for me because he actually took a camera that wasn't 15 years old, and I'm really happy with the photographs I got from this day. The street photography in Corfu was incredible. We were in the old town, and one of my favourite places was this local market. You could see the locals picking up their fruit and veg, there was lots of hustle and bustle, and we walked up and down this little stretch quite a few times. I really like sort of the candid day-to-day photography. This one was my favourite. I managed to spy a woman in the shop, and then this woman outside the shop just looked quite angry when a moped arrived, and I thought the juxtaposition and the framing was really cool. I think prime lenses and smaller cameras work so good in this sort of environment where you are quite close to other people and you don't want to be sort of in people's faces with a big camera. I really enjoyed finding order in the chaos, trying to find those moments that were quite quiet in this very busy place. And I got a little bit obsessed with reflections in windows. Here are two of my favourites from the trip. Framing, whether it's through a reflection or a mirror or through a doorway, can be really, really effective. So using this has been a ball. You can use it completely one-handed if you put a nice prime lens on it, because everything is on this side of the camera. It weighs just 385 grams, so you don't notice it around your neck at all if that's how you like to carry your camera. I've been really charmed by this camera. I was expecting the original GH1 to be much more basic, to leave a lot more to be desired. But there's so much in here that's so similar to the more recent GH cameras. Obviously, not the video features, obviously. But if you're looking for a cheap, everyday carry camera, it is really good fun. And very, very comfortable and ergonomic to use as well. Just don't expect a burst mode. Unless you've got 1 second of action to capture, the burst mode is hilariously bad. About as old as this camera is how long I've been using Squarespace. That's how much I love Squarespace, which are the sponsor of this week's video. If you need a website or a domain, this is the first place you should look. It is so user-friendly and dead easy to get started. I don't know a thing about code or design, but everything is so easy to use and drag and drop, and if I can do it, anyone can blooming do it. And microphonenerds.com is the best thing ever. I am so proud of this website. I have a blog for all my thoughts and feelings. I run my photo contests over there. I sell my presets. It's just a great little place that is completely my own and no algorithm can dictate it. If you'd like to get started with Squarespace, go to squarespace.com and create your website, create your masterpiece. And then when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/microphonenerds for 10% off your first purchase. Okay, back to the nerdiness. One of my favorite things about this camera is the sound of the shutter. It's like a bloody machine gun. Listen to this. So it's slightly louder than your average camera, but in a good tactile way. It's not enough that it would distract someone for street photography. Just the layers and the colours of that is so cool. So here are some of my favourite images that I've taken with this camera. I really like the look of these images. The JPEGs are pretty nice straight out of camera, but I like to tweak them with my own presets, which you can find on microphonenerds.com. If you like a affordable, fun little cameras and want to try one out, you can't go far wrong with the GH1. Just don't spend the earth. Don't spend the earth. If you find one for a bargain, buy it, but don't spend too much. That's all I'm saying. It is 38 degrees currently, and I'm dying. How much am I dying? I'm sitting here, and after every line, I'm drying my actual face. We didn't get any summer in England, so we thought let's go to Corfu, and now I'm boiling alive. If you like this video, check out more of my tiny camera series. There are many, many tiny cameras to choose from, and I have a great selection of videos that you may enjoy.